Yo, what's happening, world? Name's Raheem Flowers. And you know what I've been doing? I ain't gonna lie. It's been a long time since I've done this. I haven't done this since my 09, 2010 days when I first got introduced to DJ VLAD, to that fucker. But, you know, I've been hearing a lot about this movement known as ADOS, ADOS, American Descendants of Slave Movement. And I've been binge watching VLAD. And the funny thing is, there's been this reoccurring theme lately in fall of 2019 of him repeatedly speaking about issue that he got into with the ADOS movement. And apparently it pertained to something that he said on Twitter about the possibility of reparations going to people with college students. Now, I'm gonna tell you where we found common ground at. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't particularly find common ground with that. Although I don't think that's a horrible suggestion in terms of being practical. But let's be real, that's still just a cop-out for compensations that a lot of these Caucasians, and mainly these Caucasian/white Jews, have contributed towards slavery. I mean, you know, and I'm gonna get into that bitch known as Yvettte Carnell in a minute, and her homosexual sidekick, Antonio Moore, or at least effeminate at the very least. Anywho, so backstory. Vlad talks to Talib Kweli about ADOS, who is somebody who they see as an enemy. And they were speaking about Yvettte Carnell had a MAGA hat that she removed on her social media. I believe it was on her Instagram. It was on one of her social media accounts. And let me tell you something. What Vlad said and what Talib Kweli was saying, and of course they get the next pro-black, Lord Jamar, to speak on it. And then the next pro-black, Godfrey, to speak on it. And Vlad's had other people speak on the ADOS movement. Now, the ADOS movement is something that they consider divisive. And Talib Kweli in particular considered to be an anti-immigrant movement. Now, here's the thing with me. Yes, my family derives from the Caribbean. I've stated this in my videos that my people and my roots come from Belize, even though I was born and raised in Chicago. But my issue with ADOS isn't the fact that they want to have reparations exclusively for, you know, my Black American brothers and sisters out here. That's not where my issue stems from. My issue stems from the constant emphasis of them denouncing every other so-called Black person and the other aspects of the so-called Black diaspora. My other issue is this. It is a reoccurring theme that you Niggros love to do is run behind these Jews, whether they're funding the movements or whether they're orchestrating the movements. George Soros, Black Lives Matter. Civil rights movement. We already know about that. Stephen Wise rather, and Levy, who they wrote manuscripts about and talking shit about your man Michael Lucifer Coon, Martin Luther King, Michael King. And last but finally not least, something I'm sure you Niggros either don't know or most likely don't even give a fuck, but you're still running behind a Jew in that ADOS movement, Yvettte Carnell. By that bitch's admission. You want to know what she said on Twitter? And I'm going to put up the links for everything I'm saying. Her family is mixed. Her father is a white Jewish man and her mother is a Black woman. So basically, she's no different than a Jussie Smollett. She's no different than Omar Washkow. Prove my point, and she's just like Jussie Smollett by creating this ploy for attention. She has a vitriol for black men. She used that simp named Boyce Watkins, don't like Tariq Nasheed, don't like Umar Johnson, doesn't like Talib Kweli, and have you ever seen her behind any movement that pertains to black men? Has she ever given kudos to any black men? No, she stabbed one in the back. But you deserve that shit, Boyce Watkins, because you want to constantly simp and simp and simp and simp, especially for these so-called mulattoes, like Yvettte Carnell, like Zaza Ali. Fuck you talking about? You look goofy doing that shit, old man. You know who Boyce Watkins looks like to me? He looks like a high-value Uncle Phil. He looks like a punkish, quote-unquote, beta male-ish version of Uncle Phil. And you know what the funny thing is about Uncle Phil? Uncle Phil in real life is a homosexual, just like Yvettte Carnell. As a matter of fact, not only is Yvettte Carnell a lesbian, she is a woman who has a white lover. Yes, she is dating a white woman. So not only are you a part of this LGBTQ community, you're also a part of being a so-called mulatto, and you're dating a white woman, but you claiming that the ADOS is an American descendants of slave, which is for indigenous blacks and black people who derive in the States. So this is supposed to be this is supposed to be a movement of nationalism for black people, but then you have this biracial Jewish woman, because that's what we're gonna call what it is, being one of the main heads. Her and this effeminate sugar tank having dude named Antonio Moore. Oh, I don't know why does her sexual orientation matter? It wouldn't matter if you niggas didn't claim to be so pro-black about your movement. It wouldn't matter if you didn't sit here talking about white supremacy all day while subscribing to the philosophies of a white supremacist, which would be pansexuality, homosexuality, lesbianism, and hey, let's not forget the fact that she has that Caucasian Jewish lineage running through her veins from her father. Even though we could talk about the whole maternal aspect of it, but still, fact remains, she has that lineage, and you can't deny, you can't run from that. And then, another thing too, a lot of you Niggros have been commenting on things that I said about VLAD, and me basically pointing things out with the Jews, and even my recent video about Fuck This Diaspora Part 7 about Drake. No, it don't work like that. It can't be in one breath that I was a coon back in 2016, 2017, because I was saying that we all need to take accountability, and we can't be sitting here pointing the finger at the master white hand of white supremacy. And I even said this on video. Go back to my old video, Dear Black People Learn Self-Preservation in 2016, back when I was 23. You can't blame these white people. You can't blame these Jews because they follow the laws of nature and self-preservation. Be mad at yourself. Be mad at yourself as in other so-called blacks. Ben said that, and I still have that thought process. All I'm saying is that these white Jews are key players in the destruction of black people. But then again, so are black people. They're key players to their own. We are our own key players. And I wouldn't even put it past if there was a black person sitting behind that chair. More specifically, a Moor. I'm not somebody who sits here blaming people all day, but I'm gonna call it what it is. I'ma call. See, fuck it, I don't care. They already demonetized my shit because of what I said about VLAD, even though I agreed on him on the divisive aspect of ADOS. I'ma call a devil a devil. Fuck. Y'all trusting these double agents. Y'all trusting these Tariq Nasheeds of the world. You trust in these Umar Johnsons of the world. You trust in these Boyce Watkins of the world. Like, first of all, it's funny that we're talking about Boyce Watkins and what he said about Yvette Carnell when we already have on camera that you the Chinaman's bitch. But then you simp and you let this bitch use you and your platform so she could come up. I ain't surprised though, not at all. Man. In addition to that, you let all these people into your platform. Boyce Watkins, I'm talking about his silly, simping, goofy ass. Zaza Ali, same shit. But back to what I was saying about Boyce, he said that there's this Marxist, she has this Marxist agenda. Duh, Karl Marx is Jewish too, and so is Yvette Carnell. So it's only natural for her to go and subscribe to a Marxist thought process. She's only doing the works of her father, Boyce. And that's the thing. Black people need to take self-accountability. Stop letting all these outside forces infiltrate these movements. Look at Black Panther movement, which its foundation is rooted by what? Marxism and Maoism, but Marxism primarily. What did I say? Civil rights movements, boom, Jewish people. Black Lives Matter, George Soros, boom. Black Planet, where black people were hooking up, Omar Washkow, boom. And ADOS movement, let's not forget, Yvette Carnell, boom. We do need to take accountability. This is why we don't get far, because we sit here doing all this bullshit infighting, just like the ADOS movement. Bullshit infighting. Pan-Africanist movement. See, and that's another thing too with the Pan-Africanists that I don't agree with. Who are you to say that every so-called black person belongs within that African region and diaspora? You have the Etruscans, you have the Sumerians, you have people in the Olmec, you have people in Melanesia, you have people in places in New Guinea. Like, who are you to say that this, like these, and Australia, it's just too many places where black people already were rooted and grounded even before all that stuff with Cristobal Colon, the Italian Caucasian Jew, made his feet in the New World. So for Pan-Africanists to draw that conclusion and to assert that notion, and they can't even say that with absolute certainty, that is asinine, it's stupid. So for the Umar Johnsons of the world, for the Taib Kwalis of the world, for the irritated genies of the world, or any individual who constantly subscribes to Pan-Africanist beliefs, like, y'all can't even say that with absolute certainty. There's too many there was always melanated people out the gate who belong to all these different countries and regions. Like, for real. And all y'all who sit here and subscribe to Egypt, a lot of these Egypts, like when you look at these ethnic groups, the Hamatics, you look at all these groups, the Bejas, you look at all these, and most of the Egyptians in Egypt aren't even, the funny thing, they're not even indigenous Egyptians. A lot of them moved to Sudan. A lot of them are Sudanese these days. And I believe a lot of them are in Uganda. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but the point is, y'all talk about all this. We need to go get our roots back to Africa. You can't even say that every single so-called black person it applies to. I mean, of course, there are plenty of people in the world where it does derive from their roots, but you can't say that for everybody. And to make that assumption is mighty arrogant and it's mighty stupid. Just calling it what it is for the Pan-Africanists. There's just too many, like, There's just too many theories going on. But one thing's for sure though, the melanated beings have always been there, regardless. It's just not what a lot of these Pan-Africanists, and even people in the ADOS, like, you can't say that every black person started in America. Even the ones who came in America, you don't know, because they could have migrated from other countries, other regions, took boats and all that themselves, and then settled here. You already had people in Germany. Like, Martin Lawrence, it's funny that Martin Lawrence was born in Germany and then he played the Black Knight and they were like, it's the Moor! Like, Hollywood knows this. A lot of these Kabbalists in Hollywood know this. The Moors, even though a lot of them derive from Morocco. I mean, I've been looking up so many things and I'm still finishing up the Sumerians. I think about the Amorites. I think about even kings and people who were part of royalty in Babylon. You know, like Hammurabi, my bad. I was gonna say Amaru, which Tupac's middle name comes from that quote unquote mythological figure, Tupac. Amaru Shakur from the Sumerian Babylonian. But point is, you can't write everybody off as such. So I could agree on ADOS, or I could agree on people who speak on that talking point about not all black people derive from Africa. But you can't sit here and dismiss Africa either. Just saying. You have many melanated indigenous people throughout the world and throughout the region, and that's the research that and the data that I've gathered. But yeah, keep following that broad, Yvettte Carnell. Let's see how far that's gonna get you. Think that these white people are gonna play fair. Think that these Caucasian Jews are gonna play fair and give you reparations. You know why the Jews were able to get reparations? Because it was them doing dirty work. But what did Farrakhan say? Big Jews putting little Jews in the oven. So they can do whatever they want. When you're in rulership, that's how that shit goes. But we don't have that mentality. We don't have that mindset. We don't have that drive to do better. At least most of us. And, you know, it's time to change that, make a paradigm shift. That's all I'm gonna say right now. Peace out. One love.